Give me a few more minutes. We'll get there. America and the world are measurably less safe and less respected because of the Iran deal that Hillary helped cut. Period. Hillary Clinton, as an inept negotiator of the worst nuclear arms deal in American history, is she guilty or not guilty? As a flawed evaluator of dictators and failed strategist who has permitted Russia back in as a major player in the Middle East, is Hillary Clinton guilty or not guilty? Hillary Clinton, as a coddler of the brutal Castro brothers and betrayer of the family of fallen state trooper Werner Foster and his family, is she guilty or not guilty? And here at home, for risking America's secrets to keep her own and lying to cover it all up?
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Joining us now, fresh off his address. I'm nervous, to the Republican National Convention last night, New Jersey Governor Christie. How are you?
I'm fine. How about you?
I don't know. Am I guilty or not guilty? I don't know.
You are definitely guilty. No doubt about that. We know that. Very, very guilty.
As charged.
So I commented this morning. There has been an element in the Republican Party that didn't know whether to love you or hate you, still holding back from.
It happens in my own family.
2012, exactly. 2012 because of the hug with Obama. And last night had to feel really great having the entire Republican Party actually respond to you more energetically than anybody else that's been here this week.
It was because of the case I'm making in it. I don't think it had as much to do with me as it did.
No, they were really cheering loudly when you walked out there. The whole place was electric. It was nice to see you as a friend. It was nice to see.
Listen, as you said earlier, it beats the alternative.
Right.
And I just thought last night I really needed to make the case slowly, methodically, factually, against Hillary Clinton. I think that the problem is that, people in my party often get so angry about her that they yell and they scream and they use kind of, divisive language that doesn't get to the core of my problem with her.
Like lock her up.
Yeah, that's
right. Well, yeah. I mean, the core.
That made me nervous. I know you didn't do it.
Yeah, and I mean, but let's face it. The core of the problem with her, and the thing that got the crowd more and more heated up last night, was I was reminding them of every one of her miserable failures. And so at the core of the problem with Hillary Clinton is that people do not think she's worthy of the presidency. Not based on her husband, not based on past scandals, based upon the very resume that she uses as proof that she deserves to be president. And when you look at that, I mean, I saw some of the stuff that was on the commentary afterwards, and watching some of the liberal commentators twist themselves into pretzels.
Listen, why do you even do that? Do you read comments on articles too?
No. What happens?
I mean, why do you do that?
No, I don't. But here's what I did: I keep my television on this station, so as soon as I wake up, I don't have to do any changing to the power button, and I see all you guys.
Okay.
The problem is, I get the people who are on this network late night.
Please.
Which are, wow.
We love them all. Nicole's on late night.
I'm talking about later than her. Later than Nicole.
At that point, we will now move to Willie Geist, the New Jersey resident with the question.
As you did
Mr. Jersey.
Mr. Jersey, as you did your call and response, you heard the lock her up, lock her up. It's not the first time Trump supporters have chanted that. You're a former prosecutor. You've looked at evidence. You've studied the email case. Do you believe that she should end up convicted of something, A, or B, put in prison for what she's done?
She should be convicted. Yeah, absolutely. And listen, I have great respect for Jim Comey, and I've told everybody this. I told Donald this any number of times when this was going on. I think Jim Comey is a really smart, good guy. But here's the problem. He forgot his job. Because Loretta Lynch had so absented herself from this and so compromised herself by meeting with the President Clinton on the tarmac, Jim Comey felt like he had to be FBI director and prosecutor at the same time. And so he was saying, well, as a reasonable prosecutor, I might not bring this case. And my point to Jim someday when I talk to him about it would be, when your call, man. And when you were U.S. Attorney in Southern District of New York and I was in New Jersey, when the FBI guys came in and said, bring this case, we decided, or if they said, don't bring this case, we decided He should have just laid out the facts privately, quietly, and made the Attorney General make this call. And if I were the person looking at that evidence, I'd bring the case.
So why do you think he didn't?
Well, it wasn't his job to, right? So he couldn't stand up and say, bring the case. He didn't have the authority.
But he
to
could
bring
recommend
the case.
charges.
He could, but I think that would be very difficult for him to do publicly, which is why I think the whole public part of it was a mistake. But the problem is, the Attorney General is so compromised ethically. She can't say one way or the other because she decided to take a meeting. And by the way, let's clear this up. She's got FBI agents that are guarding her all the time. When he came to the plane, let's assume that the story is the way they said it is, and old Bill just came wandering across the tarmac, hey, looks like the Attorney General's plane. Let me go see it, right? The FBI agents go in and say to her, excuse me, General, former President Clinton's outside. Anyone with a sense, any kind of common sense at all, says, tell the president, thanks a lot. Not the best time for us to talk.
But you've said you trust the professionalism of Jim Comey. You've known him, you've worked with him.
Yeah.
So why do you think he didn't recommend charges?
Listen, I think it was too much for him to do at one time. He had to be the FBI director and the Attorney General at the same time. And even for somebody as talented as Jim, that's a lot to bite off. And I think he made a mistake. I'm saying, but I don't think he's in the tank.
Right.
Okay, which some people will say. I just think he's wrong.
Okay, you ran a U.S. Attorney's office.
I did.
So you're used to dealing with FBI investigators working out of the U.S. Attorney's
all the time.
Why do you think the pace of this investigation took so long?
Mike, having run it, it's hard to say. But I would tell you that I think that when I was dealing with very high-profile political cases, which I did a lot of, as you know, man, you got to make sure, as they say in the FBI, it's a headshot.
Yeah.
You got to make sure that you dot every I and cross every T, because you know the person on the other side is going to have the very best legal counsel that money can buy, the best investigators, and they're going to take your case apart, even if it's a great one. Mm-hmm. And so you've got to make sure. And my guess is that that's why it took so long, because you can't swing and miss on this one. If you're going to go and try to take out a high-level political figure and you swing and miss, bad news. So you got to make sure.
So you were one of the first to get on the Trump train, and some might argue that the easier thing to do here would be to go after Hillary Clinton and to get her at all her weaknesses, especially from your perspective with your expertise, and you did that with great talent last night. What about Donald Trump as a leader? How can you honestly reassure people that he can be trusted, that he tells the truth, that he is a Republican and not a Democrat, and that he will promote policies that really help widen the conservative movement and bring more people into the party? I can't think of one person who has actually said that.
Let me ask you, who's the nominee that's done all that? I mean, since Ronald Reagan, who's the nominee who's done all that? Basically, we haven't won a broad victory in an election as a Republican Party since George Bush 41 in 1988. And so the fact is that I'm not going to sit here and warranty every one of those items for you. But what I'm going to tell you is,
one?
Listen, I'm happy to warranty a number of them. First of all, I've known him for 14 years, and I trust him that when he gives his word, he's going to keep it. And secondly, I'd say to you that this is not like a political science class. This is the real world. There's a binary choice here. It's Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. Donald Trump was not my first choice for president. I was, right? It didn't work out. And so as a result, then you've got to decide. And I said this to Jeb Bush the other day. It's chicken or fish, man. It's one or the other.
I tried that too.
It's right. It's true. It's a binary. It's a binary choice, and every Republican who is not working for Trump is working for Clinton. It's just the way it is.
So you can't get there. You can't see the Bush family's perspective that they simply John Kasich, who was insulted by Paul Manafort Monday morning, really blowing up the first day of the convention. I mean, you can't see how good people, like your friends, you and I both worked for 43. Yep. You can't see how good people cannot arrive at the point where they can pull the lever for Donald Trump.
No, what I can't see is how good people can arrive at the point where they're helping Hillary Clinton. But that's the reality of it. Listen, I would love to live in a world where I could say, well, I don't like the choice of my own party, therefore, I'm just going to sit it out. Well, but the absolute result of sitting it out is a Hillary Clinton presidency. And so when she nominates her third ultra-liberal justice of the Supreme Court, I would look at my friends like Jeb Bush and John Kasich and say, satisfied?
Well, what
Satisfied
about
now?
national
Your
security?
conscience is pure now? Excellent. Good for you. But the fact is that he will make good choices for the Supreme Court from the perspective of a conservative, and certainly much better choices
How do you know
for
that?
the Supreme Court.
How do you know?
Because I've seen the list of people that he has been talked about,
Okay,
and I've spoken to him
outside
about
of
them,
though,
Joe.
You and I both know that while we were voting for Republicans, and while we were working for Republicans, and while we were fighting for Republicans, Donald Trump was a Democrat. Donald Trump was giving money to Hillary Clinton. Donald Trump was saying that Hillary Clinton would make the best that you'd make a great president. I mean, he became a Republican a couple of years ago.
Well,
So how do you convince conservatives that have fought for the cause their entire lives that this guy is not going to completely abandon them after he becomes president?
Well, what I'd convince him of is that there's a very good chance he won't do it, and there is no chance that Hillary Clinton won't. Again, Joe, I go back to this being a binary choice. This is not about, sitting here and saying, gosh, if the world were perfect from my perspective or your perspective,
right,
that would mean I would be the nominee for president, and you'd be the nominee for vice president, and life would be perfect. It would be incredible.
Intensity determines who wins and who loses.
Right.
Barack Obama had it in 2008. He had it again in 2012. We're not talking about Jeb Bush or John Kasich. We're talking about all the people, the type of people that would knock on doors for you and me, put hangers on doors, and aggressively go out and fight for a candidate.
And listen, you're not going to find that today in gross, large numbers after a 17-person primary where everybody was split up into more pieces than the party's ever been split up in my lifetime. And I've seen good people who were friends of mine and supported us over the years who are with 3 or 4 different candidates over time, over the last 9 to 12 months. So it takes some time to bring that back together. And Donald is the kind of person who is not necessarily going to reach out and be warm and fuzzy to give people a hug and say, come on to the team. So that's part of the problem.
Are they prepared? I mean, they can't seem to even run a campaign effectively. The family seems to be split right now. Mark Halpern reported yesterday that actually Melania did not go out to see Mike Pence being selected because she was angered by the way that the children had taken the process over. It seems that there's disarray and chaos inside the campaign, even among family members.
Well,
if they can't run the campaign effectively, how do they run the government effectively?
Well, they ran, Donald ran it effectively enough to win 38 states and beat 16 other people.
Right.
Me being one of them. And so now the time has come for them to pivot at this convention to a general election footing. And that's going to take adjustments from everybody, from the candidate first and foremost, and for everyone in his orbit. They're going to have to adjust to the new world of a general election world, which is different.
They haven't done it yet, have they?
Well, listen, I think that he has begun to do it. He is not totally there yet. And I'm hoping that what we're going to see Thursday night is the more complete pivot. Into a general election mode, and we're going to see. Listen,
does he need to expand his campaign operation just beyond family members and Paul Manafort?
Well, sure. Of course. Yeah.
That would be a
Will
yes.
he do it?
Him? Will he do it? I believe so, because you know more than anything else, what motivates Donald Trump is winning. More than anything else, what motivates him is wanting to be a winner and not wanting to be a loser. Right? So that motivates him.
So, Joe, I've taken a tally, and 93% of what he said was original content.
That's pretty good.
Listen, if 93% of what I say is original content, it's a huge day in the Christie house.
All right.
Huge day.
All right.
Very good. Thank you, Chris.
Christie.
Always
Thank
good
you,
to see you.
Thanks,
Coming up, thank you for the verdict. They're not Donald Trump's
welcome.
most vocal supporters.